Hello, hello. Hi,
Hello.
Todd. How's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. I'm just going to show my cam so everybody doesn't think I'm a robot. So, hope everybody's doing good on this fine Thursday evening. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, too. Again, big thanks for Todd for coming on this live stream with us. So we'll just dive right into it because I know everybody probably has a lot of questions for both Todd and us at MTD. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some of the big announcements we've had this coming week and the last week as well. So we'll just kick this off quickly with a quick little overview. So jumping right into it. By the way, top right, there's a POAP for everybody. For those of you who don't know what a POAP is, it's a collectible you can earn by attending this event. The POAP will be given to you automatically if you give your email address or your EVM or Polygon wallet. So for this week, some pretty big news. McFarlane Toys and McFarlane Toys Digital is officially partnering with NBC Universal. So it's a pretty big stuff for everybody involved, and a huge shout out to the teams at McFarlane Toys who made this happen. Specifically, this announcement is in partnership with our original content for the Movie Maniacs line. So the cool thing about this line is it's for the first line, hopefully, that we will be releasing this year. The main thing about them from the MTD perspective is we're talking about phygitals. So one thing here that's very important to note is we are solely going to be working with the toy store on this one through physical redemption codes. So for those of you who bought from the Batman by Todd collection, it'll be redeemable in the same way. So essentially, if you buy one of these physical toys, you get a code that comes with your box and your toy, and you can redeem it. This will come with a digital collectible that's viewable in our viewer app. So for those of you who've never been in the view app before, it's our desktop application where you can view your digital collectibles. So there'll be more on that in the coming weeks, and there'll be a lot more AMA and guided content coming out in the coming month, actually, for any kind of guidance or help or support for those who've not used this app before. So moving on into, obviously, the other big topic this month, the toy store turned 30. So we had an announcement last week about this already, but I think I'll invite Todd to come on the mic here for a second. I think there's a couple of interesting little tidbits we can share with everyone on this one. So I'll let you take it over here for a couple of minutes, Todd. So what's it feel like for this big company to turn a big 3-0 like that?
It means you've been around a long time and you've gotten older. So there's that. But yeah. It also means that we've been able to survive all the different various cycles that happen in life, whether they're economic cycles, upturns and downturns in retail, right? So, and that's a tribute to the good people that have worked for me over the years, that have, helped me make and sculpt and design and sell toys that there seems to be an audience for, and has been off and on for 30 years. So starting your own company is no small feat. Going against the giants is not easy. Trying to get your product out on the shelves with the big giants is a steep hill. And then doing all of that and lasting 30 years at the same time. I as I get older, I appreciate how others have had careers, whether it's in music or TV or video games, films, whatever, and actually arguably any occupation, and be able to do it for decades and still be relevant. It's a hard, especially in the arts. And so it's a tribute to a lot of the people that have worked for us over the decades, and more so the kind support that all the fans have given us, and some of them are listening right now.
Nice. So I can't say I've been, I've just barely been around that long, so that's definitely pretty awesome. This company's been around almost as long as I have, so that's pretty cool. It's definitely been a pleasure working on all this stuff, so I'm glad to be part of this big milestone. Cool. All right, I'm not gonna add more questions. I'll let everybody add their own questions about this stuff. So we'll just cycle through some more of these slides and get into some juicy content. So we had also revealed last week the big Spawn Wings of Redemption digital that's also coming out at the same time as the DC 7-inch line that we also revealed this week. So for this, we can confirm there's going to be 3 digital variants, including what you're looking at here. Actually, Todd, myself, and Veal and I had a meeting about this one this week, so there'll be a lot more information to come on this one. So how do you feel about doing some of these digitals, Todd, this year? I think it may not be the only one this year, but definitely one of the pretty cool looking ones, I can say for sure.
Look at the whole idea of trying to mix any mediums always is an experiment at any given time. So I know that there are fans that enjoy the physical. I mean, probably the vast majority of the people that buy our product. Like I said before, there's also a group of people who like the digital forms that we've done for whatever reason, whether it's just personal taste or because, again, it saves them shipping or they don't have the room to do it. In this case, we're just doing both. So we say, hey, if you buy the physical version of it, you can get the digital version. You don't have to, but it's there. Or if you do like the digital, you go, man, I get a digital, and for the price of what they think a digital is, they're throwing in a free physical. So depending on what side of the fence you're on when you make that purchase will depend on the value of the other side of it. But we have pretty devoted people on both sides of the fence right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Good to know. So as we had talked about, there would be a special anniversary drop coming this month. So there is one. We are actually working on getting that out for you guys next week. Is there anything we can show the crowd about this drop right now, Todd?
Do you have it teed up or no?
No, I think we can keep it a secret for a little while longer. But actually, everybody's looking at the figure right now. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
We're going to be releasing a Todd McFarlane digital figure that is paired up with a toy as well that we'll be releasing soon. So do check in on all the Twitter accounts that McFarlane has going on right now and our Discords. We're going to be releasing some released pictures of that pretty soon.
Yeah. And so let's just talk about for a bit I mean, you get 2 figures. One is me. I don't know if that's overly exciting or not. It's the second one that we've done of me in 30 years. The first one was based on I made a cameo in the Spawn movie, and we did a version of Todd the Bum. This is Todd the artist. You get some of the props are like a microphone because I'm up on stage a lot, and there's a sketchbook that has a drawing of the figure that also comes in that package next to my figure, which is a Spawn figure. So the drawing is of that figure that's there, but and I think you can take the shoes off and stuff because I walk around the office, in socks all the time, so you can literally have Todd at the office look if you want. But the piece that to me I think is more interesting than me because I'm bored of me is the other figure is Spawn, but it's a Spawn figure that I drew when I created Spawn initially when I was a 16-year-old kid. I saw the package the other day, and I don't know if we're going to be able to correct the error, but it says a drawing from Todd from 1997. No. You must have not been able to read my handwriting. That's 1977. when I was 16 years old. By 97, I had my Marvel career, and we had started Image Comics, and I was 5 years into the Spawn comic book. This is basically the drawing that is
Mhm.
sort of the initial design of the character of Spawn when I was a kid. And if you look and if you flip it over on the back, there's the drawing, and then there's actually a page, because I actually did a comic book when I was a kid of Spawn. Although that version he had blue. I colored him blue because he was in space. I eventually turned him to the version of him being black and white. But if you look at it, you're going to see probably 10 things, 10 things that you don't see on the actual Spawn, even Spawn issue #1 that came out in 1992. Because this was just my 16-year-old Todd goofy drawing. And I was like, oh man, I created this new character called Spawn. Look at it. Super cool. So you'll see, like, his eyes aren't green. He's got like trimming around the eyes. The M isn't more like, doesn't look like it does today. He's got boots with certain markings on it. His gloves are a little bit different. So the toy that's in this 2-pack is the 2 toys are Todd the artist, and then that artist created when he was 16 that other toy, and that's based on his 16-year-old drawing of when he first created Spawn way back when. So I don't know. It's a nostalgic piece. Seemed appropriate for our 30th anniversary. Seems kind of cool.
Hmm. Yeah, nice. Actually, it's pretty cool too. I had a look at it last week. It looked pretty fun. So I'm pretty excited to see what kind of stuff we can come up with it. But all right, cool. Let's just carry on here. So something for everybody who's tuning in from the physical side of things. So big news, some pretty cool DC Build-A-Waves that we just announced this week through our social accounts. So again, quick little reminder what they look like right now. We did post these pictures, but here's the kicker. These are also technically fidgetals. I'm not sure if that was very clear, but here's the big reveal. So each of these, depending on which one you buy, gets you 3 digital variants. Some of these have never been seen before. Some are first appearances. Not too much I can show right now. But there's actually a pretty cool little surprise, because what we are going to be doing with these on the digital side is if you own one of each of any of these variants, you get to claim a unique 4th figure that is not released on the physical side as part of this wave, at least. So big little reveal here. The figure that you'll be able to claim is Mongol, which should be pretty cool because this is a pretty unique looking figure. And we're still deciding what kind of variants we're going to be doing for this one, but this should be pretty awesome. So for anybody here who's a big Green Lantern fan, an Aquaman fan, I know we haven't done Aquaman just yet, so that'll be our first Aquaman, which is pretty cool. And on the Green Lantern side, it will not be a variant that we just released recently that you'll be able to claim. So that's one little kicker I can give on that one. Is there anything on your end, Todd? Because I know you were part of the toys process.
Yeah. I mean, again, think about it as a digital Build-A-Wave, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get 3, and you end up with the bonus figure at the end of it. So we're just trying to bring some of the things that people seem to enjoy on the physical side, see if it actually also works on the digital side of things. Everything that we do on sort of at MTD is still, in my mind, still experimenting and trying to get feedback and see what people like in terms of sort of size and scale, price, frequency, characters, brands, all those things. All that information is relevant, so that you just get hopefully smarter and smarter with the help of the people who are actually laying down their hard-earned dollars and crypto to basically guide you to the right spot, the sweet spot.
Awesome. Sweet. All right, cool. One little thing before we dive into the meaty AMA part of this. So for those of you who were around during the holiday period on the MTD side, you might remember we did a toast and roast event. So we're officially kicking off the second one as of today with a couple nuances. So last time we did holiday family picture that Todd and I spent a good hour reviewing. this time around, since we've got some female presence in the lineup, we're going to do Valentine's Day. It again is open to both physical and digital collectors. So there are prizes on both ends. For example, we gave out a huge Diablo 4 full set as a physical prize for this for free. There are also plenty of digital prizes to be won for the second, third, and fourth place. So do participate. It's a lot of fun. It's another opportunity to get into a question in front of Todd here. We'll be closing this on the 25th. And there'll be another live event on the 27th with Todd here again. All entries have to be submitted through Discord on Discord GG/MTD. Again, just follow us on socials. I think the URL for this should also be in the YouTube description for this stream. So head on over there if you ever have a cool little setup you want to brag about and win some prizes. So that's it. So let's just hop on right over into the AMA section, and I'll start flagging some questions I just got here. So bear with me. I got a good dozen already. So here's a good one. Todd, what about a Spawn movie figure? I think we kind of do that. Well, not really, but yes and no.
Depends. It depends on what they're asking. If they're asking about potential upcoming movie, then the answer is yes. We'll do that for sure. And then the other one is I've had people in the past going back and redoing or updating some of the ones from the movie that came out in 1997 and bringing those forward for sort of almost a nostalgia play. It depends on what ends up happening on the deal we make on the newer movie and who our partners are, and then going and approaching the people who were the ones that were behind the first movie and seeing if they would want to have a product out there, and if the people that are doing the first movie want to have a competing product out there. But if Spawn comes out, the movie comes out, and it does a decent amount of business, then for sure over time, eventually I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we'll get the sort of all these things. We may have to stay out of each other's way a little bit, but we'll get to them hopefully.
Awesome, nice. Next up, I think this is probably a really popular question, but are you going to be doing any Comic Cons in the near future?
I generally do two, right? I do New York and I do San Diego. I'm a bit of a homebody, I said before. So those, are, and even those I sometimes don't go to for various reasons. So, but those are the two that I've got planned. Possibly, my dad lives up in Calgary, up in Canada, and I go and visit him. Look in on him. He's getting a little bit older, and they have a big convention up there that he likes to go to from time to time. So, maybe I'll go up there and say, "Hey, Dad, let's go to the convention," and I'll pop in for a couple of days there. So.
Nice. I think a good following question. This one's a bit more of a digital related question, but I thought it was interesting.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on digital collectibles and NFTs being able to sell out, or them having limited quantities or unlimited quantities?
I put the same mentality as I do with toys, right? You can sell out toys pretty quickly if you only make 10 of each also. But does that frustrate anybody that beyond 10 that might have wanted it? So there's a constant balancing act between doing too much and doing too little. Because if you have too much, obviously, you don't sell out, people don't buy it, become in the physical end, it becomes a big warmer. And then, you see that toy months later marked down, right? There's a markdown price on it. You don't like that. Like, that's never any fun. But you don't want to make it so tight that you do get your sellout, but you're frustrating people because they just go, man, unless I'm right there in the first 2 minutes, I never get it. And I have to pay, 5 times, 10 times on the secondary market to go and finish my collection. But there also should be all that weighed against. There should be a healthy secondary market in anything that you do, whether it's toys, comic books, digital art. So I don't know. I don't know that we quite have it right. I think it also the quantity depends on what it is that you're offering at that given time. So if it's a popular character, you could probably make a little bit more and sell out. If it's a less popular character, you could make less and maybe not sell out. So we we try to do the best we can, but it's like I said, an inexact science, and we don't have all the answers. Sometimes we get it and it blows out, and other times we go, man, that didn't work as well as we thought. So we'll like I said, this is all an ongoing experiment, and hopefully we'll find our 4 or 5 variations of this question that makes sense depending on the brand and the characters.
Nice, awesome. Here's a funny one. I know there's been a lot of chatter about movies lately, but I
Yep.
guess to tie this into the toys, has there ever been in any kind of water world and Kevin Costner lookalike or likeness floated around McFarlane Toys in its 30-year history? I remember watching that as a
Um,
kid.
yeah. It was one of the first sort of big blockbusters that people talked about. I remember, right? Because they're
Mm,
saying, "Oh man, it costs so much money," right? And I should go look to see what it costs compared to today's movies that can
yeah,
cost up to $300 million just for production. But
yeah.
no, I don't know. I don't know that that's ever sort of bubbled up in all the ones that we do. A lot of uh, the ones that sort of come in there are these sort of cult classic type movies
Hmm.
that people seem to still revere, and that there's going to be a hard sort of core group of people that when you put it out there, if you keep the quantities just like the digital at the right number, that you'll be able to make, they'll be able to sell out, and then it doesn't look like you were doing something that was too sort of retro chic. The thing about doing stuff in the past is that there's technically at the moment you put it out, there's no reason for it to come out that day any more than the day before, the day after. So you're completely banking on that you did hopefully a good job of it, but that the audience is still, pent up and wants something, even though it came out 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? And as you can imagine, with kids, getting on computers and stuff at a younger and younger age, their memory of something even 15 years ago is like ancient history to some extent.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Here's another interesting one, talking about crossing lines between IPs a little bit. Has there ever been any thought of a Joker Spawn or Jokerized Spawn?
um, yeah, it's actually a cool idea. But no, because we're two different companies. Obviously, DC Comic Books and Image Comic Books, two different comic books. Although I own Spawn, not Image Comics, under the umbrella of Image. But I don't know. Look at, we're going to eventually go in and we're going to sell the Spawn movie, and is Warner Brothers one of the studios that we're going to be talking to? Of course they will be. Is there a chance that Warner Brothers could buy the Spawn movie? I guess there's likely as anybody else, depending on what their agenda is at that time. My guess is that if we ended up making the movie deal with Warner Brothers, then those kinds of conversations of crossing over different brands within that corporate structure become way, 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 way easier, right? So otherwise, those conversations get a little stickier. I mean, I do the obviously the DC multiverse, but again, as you can imagine, they rightfully so. Warner Brothers Consumer Products wanted to concentrate on their brands and not necessarily sort of share the spotlight with some competitor, right? And Spawn is technically a competitor to them at this moment.
All right, cool, cool concept. All right. Well, speaking of TV and movies, um, any news or updates on the Spawn animation anime?
This no, the Spawn animation anime to me will come post whatever the deal is or isn't in its final stages when we sort of ink the movie deal, because that movie deal will then either include or not include certain rights and provisions. And some they may have the rights for, some I may say, no, you're not having the rights to it. And others we may mutually freeze it, which means neither one of us can use it. So I think the animation is something that people have been clamoring for a long time. And when I go and make the pitch, I think that they'd be foolish not to grab the animation and want to develop ASAP. Because I think if the Spawn animation came back, I think it would do extremely well, especially in the era of looking at things like the Invincibles that came out. That Robert Kirkman said he really dug Spawn animation because it was big and bad and ballsy. He wanted Invincible was a comic book that was like that, but he wanted to do animation that felt big and bad and ballsy with less shadows. So
Mhm.
I think there's an easy entry point for the animation. Just got to find the right partner and make the right deal.
Makes sense. All right. There was actually an interesting question about buying it from, I guess, outside North America. It's probably someone who comes from outside the this
Sure.
side of the pond.
Yeah.
I guess any thoughts or insights you can give to folks why some things are exclusive to North America or maybe Europe sometimes? Like what goes behind
It's
the
not
thought process?
necessarily that they're exclusive to North America. I mean, we're
Hmm.
not we're not that proud. We'll sell it all across the world, and once we're done there, there's a store on Mars. We'll try to get there. The bigger problem is finding distributors that have a long enough reach in enough countries and can get the product then into stores that are readily available where people are shopping. That becomes oddly enough, that becomes really, really hard internationally, a lot more than here, because their setup is different, right? Here, I think that the stores kind of accept a little bit of a higher priced item and have now accepted that there are collectors and geeks in all things sort of toy related. uh, Europe hasn't quite caught up to that at the same speed, so they're still, especially on the mass level, I'm talking about, they're still of the mindset that, like, just get me the Superman, Batman, Spider-Man as cheap as possible as I can take it because it's just a kid product. It's just a kid product. It's just a kid product. I've had this conversation with them literally for decades. And even if you give them something that looks as cool as ours, they sit there and they say, well, $20. By the time we mark it up, it's going to be 45, 55. That's not what they sell. They sell $15 toys, Todd. So can you get it to us for $15? Not at the level and the quality that I end up doing. So then they're going, well, we don't want it. We don't care how good it is. We would rather have less quality and a cheaper price than high quality at a higher price. And that's sort of always been our biggest rub internationally, that they're not on the same page as they are here in North America. So we just end up having way more success here because you know there isn't as much of an aversion to it. Now, the internet levels that playing field a little bit more, but the problem with being able to then go, well, fine, I'll just buy it off the internet, Todd, is that then people internationally got to pay shipping, and anybody that lives internationally is shaking their head right now, going, yeah, shipping could be crazy, right? It can actually be sometimes double the price of what the actual item was that they bought. That's true. Depending on where you live, it can be obscene, the cost of shipping. So it really sort of dampens people's collections, I think, because they can't necessarily afford to ship that many items on a regular basis because they're going to go broke, not in buying the figures, but in actually shipping the figures. So they would rather have them in their own backyard at the store, and then you run into some of the walls I just spoke about. You still there? Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting spawn canon question. Does Gunslinger get angel wings because he is part good and part, or and has heaven powers as well? Sorry.
No. No, he got them accidentally. That's why he sort of got sick for a while, and somebody says it's kind of poisoning you, right? Because you're not built for this, right? So you don't mix, this to me, heaven and hell are sort of oil and vinegar. You don't mix the two. So I'm not making any sort of moral stance on him. I'm just, he got him by accident, in a story where he had to survive, and so he had to do something he'd rather not do, and now he can't figure out how to sort of get rid of it. I mean, they're buried in him now. They don't sort of flare, but they're sort of buried in him. But it's like I said, it's more like a poison, like a cancer that's actually going to be detrimental to him. So he's either going to have to figure out how to cure the cancer, or he's going to have to figure out how to cut the cancer out and get rid of it and lose it altogether. So.
That's good. All right, back to the toys a little bit here. I know that for the 40K figures just released recently, and there's a lot of hype these days with the show being announced at Amazon. Any news on a new wave?
For what? For what? What was the brand you said?
Warhammer 40,000.
Oh yeah. We got out of the gate. We did a lot with the announcement of the licensing. Again, we're having updated conversations with them, as you can imagine, of what it is that we may or may not want to come out with. But stay tuned. If you guys know about it, we know about it. So it's just a matter of how fast we can sort of make deals and or make the cookies, if you will. So which are in this case are the toys.
Nice. Sounds good. There is one good one here, actually. What advice do you have to someone who does action figure photography and wants to stand out? I guess this is relevant with the upcoming Toast and Roast, so I might as well give a few tips.
I don't know. I mean, photography is art, right? So, for me, when I'm looking at those types of photos, two things I look at is a composition of whether the sort of the backdrop and the posing and everything is kind of interesting, and then the second piece, which once you got the composition, is what I would argue might be the number one piece, is you just have to have clarity. It just has to read in a heartbeat. It can't be something that you have to discover. So if you're like, don't hide your figure, and the way to hide them sometimes, and we've been guilty of it, is that you've got a figure and you put a red light on the figure, and then you put a red light in the background, you put a red light on the ground, and everything's red, and you can't really see the figure. I wouldn't do it, right? I tone down some of the color behind the figure, or I'd put the red on the wall and make the character pop, right? This is the same with TV and movies and comic book images and doing covers. Like, I have a 3-second rule, and the 3-second rule is you show an image to somebody, 1, 2, 3, and you turn it away. And usually somebody who's not familiar with what you just did. And after 3 seconds, you turn it away and you go, "What did you see?" And they should be able to describe. They don't have to know the character, but they should be able to describe what it was that you have. It looks like a man on top of a building. It looks like he's on the edge of a building, and there's a moon in the background. Okay, good. You saw the composition. Good. So that means it was clear enough. Oh, by the way, most people are looking at most digital art these days on a phone. So whatever you design, however clever you think your design is, when you're done with it, I'd shrink it down to 3 inches, 2.5 inches, which is basically the size of most people's screens, and see if it still works. See if it still works. right? So, I mean, you guys have seen tiled photos before when you go into Instagram or your own gallery, right? In a heartbeat, you can see the ones that hold up. There are some that hold up at a quarter inch. So of course it's going to hold up at 2 inches. And then there's some that like at 2 inches, you're like, as a matter of fact, at a foot, you don't even know what you're looking at. So it's sure as heck ain't gonna hold up at 2.5 inches. So it's a mistake that people who design billboards do. They go, billboards are 40 feet across and they design a billboard and they forget literally that when you drive by a billboard, it rarely is bigger than the span of your pinky to your thumb. Go buy a billboard and use your fingers and grow your fingers to the size of the billboard as you drive by it. And rarely will get bigger than this. So if I was a billboard guy, I'd be saying the same thing. Design your billboard and shrink it down to 5 inches. Is it a good billboard still? Photography is the same way.
Mm-hmm. All right.
JL, just a side note here. I'm going to be jumping in a car and driving someplace, and I got a bit of a dead zone. So if I drop, as soon as I get back, which would only take about a minute or two, I'll jump back on. So,
sounds good.
It's not that I got mad at anybody. So.
No worries. Cool. There are a couple of questions here about digitals. I mean, we just announced a bunch of them, so there's definitely a good number coming, and there's more coming. Actually, this is a good question. What's the best entry-level digital toy to start a collection? So if you had to pick, Todd, what would be a good one in your opinion? There's been quite a few already.
You know what? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I usually try not to pick art for people in their own house because everybody's definition of art and what they like is different. So I would just go do my homework, see what's available at what different prices, and then see if any of those are things that might make sense for you. It's to me, it's sort of like recommending a movie to people. I try not to do that often because I like a certain kind of movie doesn't mean that the next person will. Not any, I have plenty of movies my wife doesn't like and vice versa. So for me to say, hey, here's the best one for everybody out there to like, that would be unfair because the definition of art has always been, I don't know what art is, but I know what I like. So just go and find the stuff that you like.
Awesome. No, good. I know that last year there was actually a pretty big line around Avatar. Is there any? I know there's 2 more movies I think confirmed by James Cameron. Do we have any hints at any upcoming toys? I think there was a couple questions around that actually. So this is one, for example. Is there anything we can talk about there? I think we're just getting him back. Can you hear me, Todd?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I was just saying there was a big line last.
Still might be a minute or two. Like if I jump in, still might be a minute or two. But go ahead.
No problem. I know last year there was a big lineup on Avatar. I guess there are 2 further movies confirmed. So do we have any hints or info on maybe more toys on the Avatar line?
When we made the deal with them originally, they actually showed some of the concept stuff that was going to be coming out for the follow-up movies, right? Because like they were thinking way in advance. Matter of fact, I think James Cameron was sort of filming all 3 of them at the same time, right? So he was doing the trilogy at the same time, and they were showing us. So there's new characters, and new looks, and new designs, both from some of the character point of views and from some of the creatures or animals that are out there. So we'll make the ones that they suggest to us and that we can get approval on.
Yeah, awesome, cool. I guess there's been a couple of questions in the community, and I guess there's 1 or 2 here too, around shipping issues and also delays. I mean, I think is there any word we can give people here on that front?
What's the question?
there's been a couple issues recently, right, and brought up by the community and the users around shipping issues. It's either delays and some complaints on the toys being delivered broken. Is there any word there we can give?
Look, well, at some point you should want your customers to be happy, so that should sort of be the first rule of customer service, arguably the only one. Um, if, if something is our fault, we should try and do the best we can to make sure that it gets resolved, right? So there's different ways to resolve issues. The easiest one is to just give them a replacement, right? Boom, done. The other one, if you don't have a replacement, and sometimes you don't, you go, oh, that product we don't have anymore. No. You just say, hey, can we offer you your money back, right? And then the third one is there anything else we can do? Is there any sort of version of, if we give you a couple of those, you want one of those or something like that? And you try to just work with people and see how you can do it. Like, and so I think somebody was whispering to my ear the other day that some things were happening with, unfortunately, because I thought it was a cool piece, the big giant Batman statue. And I know that can be annoying because it's not a cheap piece, right? So I think people are a little more forgiving if they spent $5, right? But when you start getting into the hundreds and multiple $100 range, I think there's an expectation that you're going to get what you sort of paid for. So I know we're so delicate, let's call it, because of all the cape and the points and whatever else, that we're starting to hear that some of the tips of some of the capes are sort of snapping, and you're going, oh man. And I don't know at this point whether it's because the factory, we always pass drop tests and it's supposed to be able to take a beating, so it shouldn't happen. That it was packed too loose, or arguably sometimes what ends up happening is you can actually pack stuff too tight, so that when you try to take it out of the package, the breakage comes just trying to get out of the damn package, right? I've been there before. So anyways, we're like, in that instance, you just go, okay, you get the customer on the phone and you try to work your way through it, see how you can do it. But at some point, we don't have a lot of inventory. So if you've got more people that need replacements than you have, that's when you have to work your magic and see if there's another resolution you can get to. And that's true. I just picked something recent, but that's true with anything else.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. There's actually a really good bunch of questions here for the digital side. So I'm just trying to sift through a bunch of these right now. What are your thoughts on this one? Will the digital collectible of the figure look like the figures themselves? Will they have joints, posable, or animated? So I know at the moment we have some figures that are animated.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily posable like you can with a toy right now.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on those things on the digital side?
We've talked about it, like all those iterations, right? So we've had those conversations, obviously. And the question is, what do they want? Do they want like something that looks like a statue? Do they want something that looks exactly like the toy? Do they want to be able to pose it? And if they can pose it, what's the bandwidth to be able to do that with, dozens and dozens of toys that are held by thousands and thousands of customers? So some of it is a tech answer, and you just go, man, I don't know if we can pull this off, and do it. That's going to work right now. Great thing about technology is that whatever seems impossible or seems like a heavy lift today, a lot of times becomes much easier as the years go by, and you go, shoot, now everybody can do that, right? Look at, you've seen the commercial. You can shoot a film and edit it on your iPhone, right? You couldn't have done that 25 years ago. So I'm not saying people have to wait 25 years, but we're just seeing what it is that people want. It's a little bit funny. It's like the physical toys. You have the same conversation, right? How many joints do you actually put? I mean, again, I have a preference personally I'd rather have less articulation and a cool pose and get all the detail right, not have to sort of cut into it. But I know that to some extent I'm in the minority on that conversation, and people want the other ones, which is why we do the heavily articulated figures that at times can impede on the art. And maybe because I'm an artist first, I'm like, man, you can't cut that. Don't cut that. That's art right there. But the same applies to the digital side of it. So we'll see. And some of it, in all honesty, some of it is dictated to us by the people that we license from, right? Some of them say you can and can't do this and this and this, and we just have to adhere to it. So my guess is that if we're going to do any wide ranging experimenting, it's probably going to be on the intellectual properties that I own, because I'll just approve all of the experimenting and just see how it goes. And if it works, then the success stories I can take then to the people that we license to that might have an aversion to it and show them that people really like it and it would be sort of fun to do it with your brand. And here's the success we had away from your brand, but I think it would be a killer if we could use your brand, and you just continue to have those ongoing sort of adult conversations with the people you're partners with.
Okay, awesome. Here's a good one, actually. I'm kind of curious, will we ever get a Spawn #1 digital comic on MTD? What are your thoughts on digital comics?
Yeah, again, we've had some pretty lengthy conversations on digital comics. They've been around for a while. I mean, technically the ones that you could download and get, I think one of the bigger ones was a company called Comixology, although they recently folded. They were under the umbrella of Amazon. So digital comics, like, I think they have a place, but nobody. Here's my theory about almost any technology, right? Any sort of new innovation. If people want it, they don't need 10 years to find out they want it. They usually figure it out in 2 or 3 years, right? It's my same theory about if you're going to be a superstar in any pro sports, right? Very rarely is somebody a Hall of Famer and they were shit the first 4 years of their life, right? Most Hall of Famers were good almost the moment they hit the ground. In season one, for sure by season two. You don't wait 5 years to turn into a star. I think technology to me is a little bit the same. If there's a technology and it's been around for 10 years and it hasn't been adapted in a big, meaningful way, maybe the answer is that people don't want the technology, right? So I don't know. I'd argue with these sort of glasses that that people have, the whatever they call them, where you put it on and you're in a virtual world. They've been around now for 13 years, and I'm not seeing a lot of people walking around with them, right? So I don't know. Time to go on to something else, maybe. There might be something kind of cooler than that. Do it and upgrade some other component on your phone or something like that. So we'll just keep trying things, and you will tell us. Here's the thing about everything that we do. I know that people sometimes want to then write a comment and say, "Oh, we really love it," or "We hate it. That stinks." You really don't have to do that, because we get a lot of data just by the success or the failure of what it is that we put out. So if we put out 500 of something artistically and people gobble it up in 2 minutes, we have to make some assumption that people kind of like what we were doing. And if we do something the next week and we do the same 500 and we do something slightly different, we try something that we hadn't done before, and only 5 people buy it, then we go, either we did a bad execution of it, or people actually aren't interested in that experiment. Okay, lesson learned. So people, literally, you guys and gals all vote every single day of your life across every spectrum with your dollars, right? If you're not consuming it, then they assume that there's a reason why. Either they haven't advertised enough to you, the price isn't good, the product isn't good, something's there, right? We'll learn, and everything we're doing in the digital space, we're going to find out. So we're going to do all the things that you guys probably have thought about. We're going to try them at least once, and then you're going to tell us whether you like any of it.
All right, that's a good answer, I think. There's been a lot of questions about DC Multiverse. I think there was even someone asked about it. I think I've seen a lot of the comments about that, actually. So is there anything we can expect this year from the DC Multiverse line?
Yeah, the goal is to just continue to put out some of the key and core characters, um, and then augment them with characters that are either coming out that we don't know yet in movies, TV shows, video games, comic books, or go back into the library, which is extensive because it goes all the way back to 1938, and pick out characters that are sort of fun to look at that would make a nice toy, or do some of the stuff like we did with jokerizing some of the figures themselves. So the struggle is, and I don't really consider it to be a struggle, is people say, "Oh, you're doing too many Batmans." I disagree. I disagree because I think Batman is an evergreen. And what that means is that I think you can sell Batman 365 days a year. So it's hard for me to get into a conversation and they go, "Man, you've done too many Batmans. You shouldn't do any Batmans for 4 months." Right? Like, so we put out a Batman in January, put out a Batman in February. So you're saying that you don't think that there's anybody that's a Batman fan in March and in April? Of course there are. And what if the person that's a Batman fan in March and April didn't go into the stores in January and February? Then they walk into the stores and they go, "Oh man, there's no Batman stuff. This is a bummer. I don't like it." And they might not buy the product, and or they just, like, you don't get anything out of them for 2 months. So I'm not saying you put out the same Batman figure. I'm not saying that you put out the same Superman figure or the same Spawn figure, whoever, the same, if you've got Marvel, the same Spider-Man or Avengers, characters. But you can do iterations of them. And in this case, in the comic book world, there are so many different iterations of Batman and Batman family and Superman family that, to me, you're not doing what I would consider Batman and Superman over and over. You're doing the kind of almost the brand of Batman and the brand of Superman. And I know plenty of people, I've seen some really cool collections of people that have all sizes and shapes and scales of Batman in his classic blue and gray. And then some even add and build up the ones that are the all the different kinds of Batman, like Red Hood and all the different Robins, because they consider that to also be Batman. So I think it's cool. I think it's, I don't know. Again, this is everybody's collection gets to be exactly what you want.
Cool. Awesome. Let's hop into like an interesting little topic. It's been a hot topic in the news lately. Video games and the overlap of toys and collectibles. What are your thoughts on all that? I know maybe it's just another technology question, but kind of curious.
I I I I think those two are the closest of everything we talked about, right? Because
Mm.
they're both designed in the same fashion digitally. They're both their origins are both digital. So digital marrying with digital, I think, is probably the closest version you could do. Where comic books, you have to take it from a page, you have to turn it into plastic, you have to make it physical, and then you have to turn it digital. Movies, again, they're not necessarily meant digital because you actually film real physical human beings when you're actually making movies and TV shows. So I think there's a bigger confluence with those two than the studios sort of are paying attention to on the video game side of it. But video games is a very complicated industry, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars invested, and they don't like getting distracted. I understand it. With something that they think is only going to make them dollars when they're trying to make $100. Why deal with something that they think might only make them $1? The argument is, well, if you do it right, it won't just make you $1. But right now they're either adverse to it, or they're lukewarm, or they just go, "Yeah, you can do it, Todd, but that's your thing. You go and do it."
Cool. All right. Awesome. I think we're just at over an hour.
Yeah,
Are we still good for a few more, Todd?
yeah, a couple more.
People are actually wondering who's driving, and if you've already got an AI
it's not
car,
me.
it's kind of funny.
No, it's not me. It's my lovely wife who's driving. So.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. But it's dark. It's getting dark here, so that's why you can't see me too well.
All right. Awesome. There's actually an interesting comic book question here. Would there be a chronological Spawn release? This user has read all the comics a while ago and is still somewhat confused on what is canon and what is not.
Oh, really? Well, I guess it depends on your question of where you're confused, because I either will tell you like, oops, or I'll go, oh, you missed it, because there's a subtlety to it. There's a reason why we did it. And sometimes we do stuff that we're planning stuff in the future. So that person who gave that question, that's a marathon question that would be a show in and of itself.
All right. Sweet. All right. I think one final question would be around what could we expect for anything that has to do with the upcoming TODD figure that we're doing next week? I think there's been a couple little first previews, but is there any kind of number of variants that you think we could expect? I think we've seen 2 to 3, but yeah, anything there?
What was the question? Repeat the question, please.
Do you have any insights into what we could tell folks regarding the TODD figure that we're going to be releasing for them next week?
Yeah, again, we are talking about doing some either color variations, some drop variations. Like, here's the thing about doing something that I own, and because I have this conversation with you, JL, is that there's a difference when we own it. We can actually do stuff that we can't do in some of the other brands. So, can we add and subtract stuff? Can we add or subtract stuff that isn't necessarily in the physical, so that makes the digital a little bit more unique? Yes. Can we pose it and add pieces that aren't there? Yes. Can we change colors that we might not be in the actual toy itself? Yes. Like all of it's doable. The question is, do we do it, and why are we doing it? And sometimes you're just doing it for the fun of it. Sometimes you're doing it because of the scarcity of it, and sometimes you're just doing it because the fans are clamoring for those kinds of things. So we'll just keep, like I said, we're just going to keep experimenting. You guys keep giving us your comments, right? I'm not saying that we're going to necessarily be able to implement all of them, but we don't have all the answers, right? And on the digital front, like I said, it's still the wild west to me. There's still things that we're capable of doing, right? I mean, over in the other area where I do digital on the Oddkey site, we did this one where it was like, if you collect all 4 parts of one photo, it was actually a car, automobile, and you had 4 quadrants. We took the image, we divided it in 4. If you put the 4 together and you collected the 4, if you put it together, then I think you could either ask then for a physical version of that car. I'd send you a signed Hot Wheel, or you'd get the animated version of that car, and it only animates if you've got all 4 pieces, right? So again, depending on who you're talking to, they go, oh, I'd rather have a physical gift to go with it, with that experiment, and others are going, no, I like the digital experiment that you have with it. And you just let people sort of pick the options they think are best for themselves.
Awesome. Let's actually have 2 last questions, I think, because we're running over, and I don't think people can see you anymore in the dark there. So one good one I just saw here, what are your thoughts on having a comic book store inside the viewer app that we have? So a place to buy your comic books, but physical comic
So
books in the
right.
digital world.
So going back to the digital, and I don't think I finished that conversation. So I sort of got distracted with the technology.
Mhm.
Digital comic books have been around a long time, and there isn't a ton of data that says that it's a thing, right? Because Marvel's owned by Disney, and DC's owned by Warner Brothers. And if they could figure out that there is money in them Dar Hills, because that's their job, right? They're a public company. Their job is to maximize profits every 90 days for their shareholders. That's their duty. They would have figured it out, right? Digital comic books have been around a long, long, long time. And I know the data I get just from image, because I get paid for both my physical and my digital, that the digital side of comic books are 3%, maybe max 4% of my total sale. So now, if you have a big enough audience, 4% of a big giant audience is meaningful. And so maybe there's enough here. But sometimes you have to sort of weigh time and effort and how you're spending your employees' time, and for what it would take to keep putting together digital comic books, hoping that somebody might buy issue 167. Are we better off coming up with crazy ideas that work for existing brands, and or another experiment that might not just be something that a small handful of people want, which is issue 167, right? I got 350 issues, right? So I understand people want to buy issue number one, might want to buy issue 100, but maybe issue 212 might not be high on their priority. And so digital hasn't proven that it's a big thing out in the open world, maybe because it needed a haven here in the digital world. So I know we'll probably experiment with one or two just to see what the appetite is of it. And then we'll have our data. And then, like I said, you guys will vote with your dollars and we'll go, oh, okay, that either worked or didn't work. If it works, then yes, a digital comic store, retail store would be awesome. Super awesome. I'd want one.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. I guess last question to close it off. What would be your one tip to give to physical collectors to give a shot at buying a digital for the first time? Like, what would you do if you had to convince the staunchest physical toy collector?
Um, first off, again, if it's just a curiosity buy and doing it, like I said, everybody's already doing digital art anyways, whether they know it or not. It's those pictures that you have on your phone, right? Like we all like those are digital photos of real things and real people, right? So it's always weird when I get in this conversation, like, why does people want the digital version when they can get the real thing? Just because it puts a smile on their face and they enjoy it, just like that picture of your grandchild you have on your phone. Like, it's not like it's not your real grandchild. It's a photo. It's a digital version of your grandchild. So it's weird that people say that and they've got like 1,000 digital photos of things that aren't real. But anyway, that's a whole nother boomer conversation. Um, for people that haven't sort of gone in, I would just keep it simple. And honestly, I would keep it simple. I would just sort of ask a couple basic questions. Don't listen to all the rhetoric. Like sometimes I even get people, some of the moderators try to explain to the newbies, and I'm like, dude, you're talking way too complicated. Stop it. Here's how. Let me tell you how I think digital art works. I'll explain as simple as possible. If you want to buy the digital art, you have to have money. Just like anything else, you got to have money to buy your digital art. So now your question should be, how do I get money? Okay, well, they call it cryptocurrency, and you got to put it in your wallet. So in the real world, you take money out of your wallet and you pay for something. It works exact same. You just have to have a digital wallet. So that should be your first question. How do I get a digital wallet? There are plenty of places that will show you how to do it. I know it seems like a big deal, but it's not. Once you do it, it's like ordering off Amazon for the first time. Once you do it once, you're good. You're golden. You never have to do it again. You don't have to have more than one wallet. You're good. And then the only thing is, how much money do you want to put in your wallet? That's it. Done. So you go, I'm going to put $10. And then depending on what crypto you're buying, you go convert it. Okay, there. Okay, good. Now I want to buy something. Oh, what do you mean it costs more than $10? Okay, I guess I got to put more in my wallet. I mean, it's really not that much different. It sounds weirder and it sounds more complicated and it sounds more odd. And yes, there's coding that goes with it and it just seems like it's different, but at its core, it's the exact same thing. You just have to have money in your pocket to buy the thing that you want. So I would first just go, how do I open a wallet? And then put a few dollars in there and then go find something that is within the budget, whatever you put. If you only put $5 in your wallet, go look for the coolest $5 thing you can find. And go buy it.
All right, amen. Sounds good. I think that's all we got for tonight. It's already an hour and 15 minutes into this. So
yeah, but I was late, so.
Oh, no, it's all good. Any final remarks? I think we're good on questions. I think this is good for us on a Thursday.
No, I appreciate everybody showing up and asking some good questions there. So again, don't be shy. I've told JL and Lee and everybody else, like, give me the hard questions as well as the easy questions, right? We should. One thing about being a company, you should be as transparent as possible to your customers and treat them. I mean, you guys give us your hard-earned money every day, and so we should be as gracious back, knowing that the only way you make money is basically having to work away from friends and family, because most of us would rather be hanging out with friends and family. So I don't take that for granted. So anyways, if you guys have anything good to say or you got curious questions, bring them on. And if you've got sort of a nagging question that's bothering you, then bring those up too. I long ago got over being sensitive, right? I think it's way more interesting to just have sort of adult conversations about everything, and not let the emotions sort of get into it. And you may not like all the answers I give you, but I'll try to be as truthful as possible. And that's just how it works. That's why we do it. Sometimes there's a reason. You don't have to like it. Sometimes I don't, because I get dictated by the retailers and or the people who give me the licenses and the brands. I don't like it any more than you, but that's all I get to do. And sometimes somebody creates the boxes for me, and sometimes I create my own boxes. So let's just chat, right? And see what direction it goes in. So good ideas come out of conversation.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll just close that off, guys. Quick reminder, there's a Pro app over there at the top of the screen. Do check out our viewer app. Go to McFarlanetoysdigital.com and hit the download button if you're curious. We've got an amazing build coming out this week with a lot of fixes, so hopefully everything runs better for everybody on macOS. There's one last question about the gift competition. I did see you, Comic. We are announcing the winner tomorrow, so sorry about that, but we'll be announcing it tomorrow. And thanks, everybody. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
All right. You guys all be good.
Have a good one. Bye.
All right.